the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. And on the show this week, out with the old and in with the new prospects. Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, but the guardian of the blue paint turned writer throws a pad save with 2 great articles this week. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we talk all things Flyers. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Your host,
Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers, and holy smokes, we have got a great show lined up for you tonight, folks. We got a great episode. We're going to be talking about out with the old and in with the new. And first of all, how are you doing, Lance, my man?
I am good. How are you?
Oh boy, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Can't wait to get into it. First of all, we would like to do a shout out and a super congratulations thank you for Hockey Writers Inc. making Bleacher Reports for the 23rd week in a row. Wow. It's okay. Big salute to Flyers Nitty Gritty and .com and Jamie Baskow and the whole crew over there. Thank you all very much for your support. If it wouldn't be for you, we wouldn't have hit the Bleacher Report so many times. So thank you very much for that. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Canine Country Club Resorts. They take care of all your pets' needs, from daycare to spa treatments and even pool time. Check them out on the web at www.cccresorts.com. Also, check them out on Facebook. They got a lot of great new specials, and the weather getting warmer now. The outdoor pool is going to be opening up here really shortly, so check them out. They're really cool, and they take care of all of your pets' needs, not just the dogs, but the cats. So check them out on the web as well, www.cccresorts.com. Thank you very much for that. All right, folks. Lance, we got 2 really special articles, I think, this week that you did. And I can't wait to get into them because I think they were a great range of subjects, and also kind of the same. They all kind of pointed to the same kind of deal, same kind of subject, but they were different subjects, kind of going to the same, pointing to the same kind of, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I really appreciated that. So it just shows the depth and the range of how you put things together as well too. So the first article posted to FlyersNittyGritty.com just a mere few days ago is all about with the recent success of the Flyers and other teams' underage prospects. Isn't it about time the AHL drops the age requirements for good? Just an article that makes you wonder why this rule is still even on the books.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously the AHL wouldn't technically have the right to forgo that, given that it was an agreement between the NHL and the CHL Junior League. But, they can certainly, I think, raise holy heck and demand that, this thing be dropped, because it's just been some exciting hockey for sure with these young CHL players being able to step in this season. Not everyone needs to be up in the AHL, but certainly some are definitely deserving, and they're not gaining anything from playing back in the junior leagues.
Yeah, that's I think the exact thing here, and your point. First, you point out in the article of exactly what you mean by giving examples of just who you're talking about in regards to these younger players making impacts not only on other teams' AHL affiliates, but also for the Flyers as well. I mean, all you have to do is just look at the AHL teams right now, and look, everybody knows at this time of year, normally, when teams are out of it, they usually, because by this time the AHL is either wrapping up or in the playoffs or whatever, and most of all the other junior leagues have either finished or are wrapping up as well too. Excuse me. So most of these players get a shot, with the lower league teams or whatever the case is, or called up to the big club because, hey, they might be trying to make it to the playoffs or whatever the case is. So,
Yeah.
I like that, and I like how you point that out. So, who are some of the players that you think? I mean, we we first view of some of these elite prospects over this past year with Wisdom and Forrester and York, etc. I mean, I like how you point some of this out in your article.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some guys that were drafted, first round guys, and even the case with Wisdom, he was in the fourth round, but still, since he didn't have a place to play, he was given the opportunity this season to play underage CHL prospect in the AHL, and he has succeeded. Some others that I listed was Quentin Byfield for the
Yes.
Kings. He was drafted second overall. He scored 82 points in 45 games last season in the OHL. All right, phenomenal player, NHL size already, elite level scorer eventually, and this guy now has just made his debut. He played so well with the AHL affiliate for the Kings that they brought him up, just like you said. Their season is just about done, as ours is, and they brought him up to see what he can do. Other guys like Jamie Drysdale, drafted 6th overall by the Ducks, was a defenseman. He had just about a point a game in juniors, and had much success for the San Diego Gulls, the AHL team for the Ducks this season. Due to some injuries this season to the defense corps, he was brought up and he's played probably about 20 games in the NHL level, and he's succeeding. He needed that. Same thing with guys like Cole Perfetti, drafted by the Jets this season.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he had 111 points in juniors. 111.
Man, all right.
What is this guy
Still
going to
juniors.
benefit from going back to juniors if he didn't make the Winnipeg Jets this season?
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
If it was a normal season, he would have been sent back to juniors. He has scored 111 points last season. He's another year older. What is he going to score? 130, 140 points this season if it was a regular season?
Yeah.
It just playing against 15 and 16-year-olds,
I mean,
it just doesn't make sense for somebody at that level to be able to be forced to go back to juniors and have to play against boys when he is far surpassing their talent level.
Exactly.
Okay, he's playing and doing well with the Manitoba Moose for their AHL program, and he's progressing his game. One of the other guys that was sent back is Seth Jarvis. He was drafted 13th overall by the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina Hurricanes, as we know, are a depth team. They are stacked to the brim with guys. And they draft rather well. They stole Seth Jarvis in my mind. He was a favorite of mine in last year's draft. He was having such success at the AHL this year. He was scoring at over a point and a quarter a game pace.
Jeez.
Almost 1.22 point per game pace in the AHL this season.
Still,
okay,
though.
And then great, yeah, that's at the AHL level. He's scoring over a point a game as a 19-year-old kid. He would be forced back to juniors, and he eventually was because his team in the WHL opened back up later on, and now he was forced to return to play in the juniors when he was succeeding in the AHL level.
Yeah.
Why are these guys still being forced to play at this antiquated rule that was set some 40 years ago because the CHL was scared to lose their prospects 2 years earlier when the NHL decided to move the draft eligible age from 20 to 18. This is when this rule got created, and it forced this. So, and to go along with that, our guys that fit that mold are Tyson Forrester.
Oh yeah,
who Flyers drafted. He
First
wasn't
round last year.
Right, he wasn't ready to make the Flyers out of the gate.
No.
But he excelled so much in juniors that he didn't need to go back there. He wasn't going to gain anything from going back. And since he's stumbled a little bit, and it took him a couple of games to get going on the Phantoms this year, but he is since having multiple goal nights back to back and succeeding, and progressing his game, which he wouldn't have been doing in the minors.
See now, okay. Now, look, I understand. I can see both sides of the coin here on this.
Yeah,
I can understand why this rule was put into place because, look, let's face it, there's a huge percentage, I would say 80% of all players drafted that don't even make the NHL. And
right.
of that 80% of the guys, that gives you 20%. Okay, so now CHL is trying to put a good product out there. They're trying to make sure they're providing a competitive environment, you know what I mean, and making it a viable league, making it something that's respectable, making it something where kids want to come and play for their juniors and all that other stuff. And
Profitable, yeah,
yeah, okay, I get it. I get it. But I think what we're seeing now is more of a turn to college hockey, where you're starting to see these young kids come in from Europe, and they're going, "Hey, wait a second. College hockey looks pretty good in America. Let's do that." And you're getting a lot of the guys from Canada that have been coming down and playing in the college ranks in the United States as well too. You know what I'm saying? So, look, the fact of the matter is this: not every player is going to be that special to where it's going to allow them to be. Look, Simone Gagne leaps to mind as one of the top players in recent years that was drafted that year and then played right out of the gates. Okay, he brought him in and they said, "Well, let's play him for the first 9 games and see how he does." And he was like, "Yeah, okay."
yeah.
And they ended up keeping him, and then he was like, "All right," and he never looked back.
For sure, some players can do that, and they can take advantage of that right out of the gate. Some,
Some,
very few
very,
in my
very
mind.
few. Yes.
So that is all well and great. That's why that 9 game test field is out there to see if you can make it. But for these guys that are in the CHL, if they can't, they're thrown back to juniors, and it's unfair because any other league in the world, you can come from anywhere in Europe. You can come from the collegiate level, like you were saying,
Yeah.
if you're 18 or 19 years old and you're signed and your team thinks you're good enough to play in the AHL, you can play in the AHL at 18 and 19 years old.
Why
But
not?
you can't if you're in Canadian juniors. And that is unfair. That is totally unfair because it is stunting their progression, I think, in some players' minds. And with that, I think that other leagues, like you were mentioning, have grown. Since this rule came into effect, you have guys coming out of the United States National Development Program that are first round talent. They have 5 or 6 guys at least every year now drafted first round.
Or at least
Okay.
in the top 10.
Right. You have guys coming out of the KHL. You have guys coming out of the Liga in Finland. You have guys coming out of the SHL in Sweden now on a regular basis. Even Germany's starting to get more pros coming out now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where 40 years ago, when this got placed into effect, the mass amount of, I would say 80-90% of players were coming from the CHL ranks. So if everybody got these guys in, then that was stealing a lot of the players. But that's not the case now. You're seeing so many more players come in and develop from all different places over the globe,
See, there was,
and
yeah,
making a faster transition to the NHL because of this and their ability to play in the AHL.
there were much less junior leagues back in the day, too, when this rule was initially started. We're talking 40 years ago. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're talking sometime in the late 70s, early 80s is when rule was put in place, and there wasn't nearly as many leagues back then as there are now. For one, okay, yeah, I know COVID has really affected everything, but for the most part, there's a lot of junior leagues out there that where players can be drafted from. You know what I'm saying? So okay, you want to pick a guy from here and pick a guy from here, pick a guy from here, pick a guy from here. You know what I mean? It's like they didn't have that kind of situation going on when this rule was put into place. and most of all of the prospects came from one, two, or three places, and that was it. You know what I mean? So that makes sense why you would have a rule like that. Okay, but now you're getting guys, excuse me, that are coming out that are 18, 19 years old that have matured to that point where they can make the cut. And if they have matured to that point and they can make the cut and they can show that they can dominate the lower leagues, like their junior leagues or whatever, come on, 111 points. I'd consider that dominating, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. And or if goalies just have 20 shutouts and they only play 30 games or whatever. So if he got that kind of situation going on, that player there needs to allow to be played in the upper leagues, so that it's going to help his development, and that
Yep.
means putting them in the AHL.
Yeah, I think so, and I think this rule needs to be changed a little bit with that, where it should be the team's choice that drafted them. Okay, in my
Yeah,
mind. Okay,
yeah,
it shouldn't just be a go all end all decision to send them back to the CHL. It should
yeah.
be the team's decision. Where is my prospect that I now drafted going to benefit most from? And two players that the Flyers drafted who I think stunted their development and having to go back to junior ranks was Morgan Frost and Isaac Ratcliffe. And and I say
Oh,
this,
great
I say
point.
I say this because Morgan Frost, um, first round pick in 2017,
Yeah,
undersized guy,
yeah,
dominated
yeah,
in juniors. He was sent back because the Flyers were a pretty decent team and didn't need him right out of the gate. He was drafted later on. He wasn't drafted, top 5 in
right.
the draft.
Yep.
He needed a
Hmm.
little bit more time to progress. But he dominated in juniors with the Sioux Greyhounds. He scored back-to-back seasons once sent back, with with the Greyhounds. Okay, what was he really learning in a sense there? He was playing against 15 and 16-year-old kids dominating. Okay, I think he was offensively gifted enough. He was used by the Greyhounds and abused in that sense to put pucks in the net. They weren't trying to get anything else from him. They weren't trying to progress his game in any other sense of the game, but to score goals. And that's all they wanted to use him for. I think personally that he would have benefited from being in the AHL level and working with those coaches at that level
Yeah.
to stay in the gym and get bigger, stronger, faster, and learn that side of it and grow physically as a player. And I think that would have helped him more, and possibly he wouldn't be injured right now because he
That's a
came
great point.
back and he's undersized
Yeah,
as it is.
yeah.
He can't help that, but he could have been here working with coaches on
Like
progressing and
like
getting bigger
Joel did.
like Joel Farabee has taken that time this offseason to do.
Yeah.
So and if you look at Isaac Ratcliffe, let's face it, he's a 2017 second round draft pick. He's 6'6" and over 200 pounds. Why in the world did this guy go back to the junior ranks playing against boys when he's a man child at that time? And he went back and he scored 50 goals and
Jeez.
a buku of points at the junior levels
Wow.
and wasn't progressing. Now look at him. It took him 15 or 16 games into the season this year
Yeah.
to even get his first goal. And this guy is a goal scorer. Um, I think it seriously stunted his growth. He was ready to progress, in my mind, to the AHL ranks. Maybe he wouldn't be dominant like he was in the juniors right
So,
away,
so,
but I don't think it would have hurt him
yeah.
to do that. I think he would have learned more up here, and he would have been challenged more. And that's what these certain level guys that are so talented at the junior levels and dominating, at age 18. Why ship them back? I don't get it. Why ship them back and just to simply put the puck in the net and score
Yeah.
and look great on paper, but it's not progressing his game. It needs more. They need more. And look at the examples that I said in this already. Some of these guys played a handful of games, 8, 10, 15, 20 games, and then they were already being called up to the NHL. They just needed a short stepping stone in the AHL, and that's what I think they need to work on. I think this should be the team's choice of
I
what to
agree
do with
with
them.
you. No, no, no. I agree with you on that 100%. Because that way it gives a flexibility, but it also helps to keep the integrity there. You know what I mean? Because look, you're talking about an 18-year-old kid who, let's face it, when we were 18, we were fresh out of high school. The last thing we were thinking about doing was getting drafted and playing in the NHL. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a big leap. For now, suddenly you were playing with guys that were 16 years old and 15 to now playing against guys who have wives and families and kids that are half your age.
Yeah.
And that's almost the same thing with the AHL as well too, because it's not always the rookies and it's not always the young guys playing in the AHL. You get a lot of those tweener guys that you need in the AHL that are in their late 20s, early 30s that have been in the AHL their whole careers, and they have wives and families and everything else too. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're still playing in a more of a professional league in the AHL because you have more of a professional league system
Hmm.
where you're playing in. You know what I mean? That's also being played in the big club. So that, you can transition. Hey, what do you know? You can get a call up.
Right. Those tweener guys, like I said in my article, I think the AHL is getting a raw deal. It's great to have a few of those tweener guys on the team that have been called up at times just to come back down, you know. And they've been career AHLers, and that's fine. That's better than I ever reached in my career, and that's admirable. But the AHL, those players can be good teachers, like you were saying, to these young players to teach them how to be good pros and what it takes to be a good pro and the right work ethic to be a good pro.
Gosh.
But but the AHL is widely getting a raw deal here. Obviously the great transition there of the nine game rule gives some players that the transition or at least a look in the NHL. And if they're good enough, that's great. They stay up with a big club. And for the most part, with other leagues around the world, they can choose to come to the AHL if they're signed, if
Yeah,
the team necessarily thinks that'll benefit them.
yeah.
But in the CHL, they get sent back down. And this is still a large majority of the guys that are going to possibly be professional players. Because Canada is so dominant in the sport of hockey. But um, it limits it. It prevents these guys from progressing and making the AHL game exciting in my mind. This season has been so much more exciting because the youth movement with the ability of the CHL players to step in and fill and grow and right now after the season, is it going to go back to just the AHL having these tweener guys that are good for a call up when somebody gets hurt? And it's not exciting to me to go to a game and see these guys that are just okay and never really make it to
Career
the
AHLers,
yeah, the
yeah.
career AHLers. Like there's no excitement in those games, but there is this season. And it would be if you let these CHLers come in, certain ones come in and develop. And,
Yeah, boy.
a lot of towns, most, not all, have their clubs closer to where they are now. And like Lehigh, and like the Phantoms were before, they were right across the street. So it gives a quick
Pittsburgh
call
is
up.
is not far either from
Wilkes-Barre,
Wilkes-Barre.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
know what I mean. So yeah.
So, it just allows that team to keep an eye on them and maybe send a coach over there to work with them, a certain one, or get in
Gosh.
touch easier with that coach in the AHL ranks and saying, "Hey, I want you to, work on this with this guy. We see him progressing, but we want to see more of this out of him." And it allows a greater chance to transition, like Zumala has. Like, Cameron York is on a fast track if he didn't get beat up, banged up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like so many of these guys before him have done with the Flyers.
Yeah. I'm with you.
It'll just make for a more interesting game, and I think it really needs to happen. I think the CHL just needs to break this to better their own league, and have more of their players make that smoother transition to the NHL.
Yeah.
That's going to be a better product for them in my mind than seeing
Agreed.
most of their players get stuck in the AHL because it's a shock at that time. Because their growth was stunted, having to go back to juniors. I'd rather see more of my guys that were drafted from my league play in the NHL and succeed because they spent a short stint in the AHL.
So my last question to you is this: will we see this rule change soon or not? But let me just preface it with this. I think you made a very, 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 very key point in this whole situation, and that's this. The players that are younger that are coming up now have been making impacts, not just on the Flyers, but on the league in general. Okay? And I think that if you do that and allow those players to continue to make the impact that they've been making, you know what I mean? I think that's going to allow things to expand even more, and it's going to make for a better game even in the junior levels. Because now you're going to know that if you get to a certain level and if you're good enough, you're going to the AHL. And this is going to be something that I think is going to be needed to change and be one of those generational rules like this rule was at the beginning and has become over the last 40 some odd years. So to change this rule would be a generational rule, I think, as well, and I think it would be for that particular purpose. Do you think we're going to see this change soon or not?
I hope so. I understand, like you said before, I understand the CHL's resistance in this, but I think other like the NHL, being able to bring them up sooner, the guys that are signed, and being able to progress in the AHL, and the AHL is certainly going to be boisterous about it changing in a sense, and I hope it does happen sooner rather than later, guys. I think it'll be good for the sport all the way around.
I concur with you, Lance. I feel that if a player is able and ready to make the jump, then they should be given the path to do so. It's not always going to be that way with every single player, and you're not always going to hit on it, but there's going to
Yeah.
be those special players that you are going to be able to do that and give them a chance to get to where they need to get to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it causes for an even more need for this with a salary cap error now. Obviously, right now we're in a flat cap error with COVID and everything, and not the stands aren't filled. It's only a few thousand people in there. They're not generating a lot of
Yeah.
revenue right now, and the league is going to benefit from these guys coming up with on a rookie deal if they are capable of playing and insert them in and not having to pay a veteran that's been in the league 10, 15 years and is still a fourth line player.
Yeah.
You can replace them with a guy like Wade Allison. And, obviously he didn't come from the CHL, but all these guys,
Still, so what?
Igor Zumla, boom. Now he came from the WHL. Short time,
Right.
is right up there.
I'll take it.
Right.
I'm with it. I'll take it.
Right. Zayd Wisdom, I think, could play and be a possibility on the Flyers next season.
I
Tyson
think,
Forrester, great,
yeah.
great kid that shows promise. That could be, a next Joel Farabee and
Hmm.
play a year or two and then,
There you
take
go.
off.
I think the same thing about Cam York too, with his leadership skills and how he's played throughout his coming through the juniors and the ranks and everything, and then playing in college and everything. I think Cam York is gonna. I think he's going to be another one of those players a year or two down there in the AHL, and he'll be ready to try to make it to the big club. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, great first couple games for him. Yeah.
I know, I'm with you. So I'm with you on that for sure, man. Look, I think we both agree that this rule needs to change and gives these players an opportunity to get out of the juniors instead of being boys playing or instead of being men playing against boys and allowing them to play in the big club where they're going to be challenged and it's going to be difficult for them. So I'm all with you on that. So we're going to take a little quick break here, and we're going to have a word from our sponsor, www.cccresorts.com. They have all of your spa needs for your pets. They take care of cats, dogs. They have daycare. They have hour care. They have boarding, indoor and an outdoor pool, which will be opening here soon. Check them out on the web at www.cccresorts.com. And now a word from the resorts. Greetings. This is SteelFlyers from the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. Taken care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. And both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities, and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full-service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God. Welcome back to the Hockey Writers Inc. We're here with Lance Green, your host, and I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers, and we are talking about in with the old, or in out with the old and in with the new prospects, and we're getting into the second article here from the great writer extraordinaire Lance Green. This latest article was just posted yesterday on FlyersNittyGritty.com, and without a doubt is one for the ages. I mean, I really do think that a good house cleaning is in order. Flyers Prospect Edition, out with the old, in with the new, really hits home and hits on all the things that we have been talking about this year, this whole entire season, and what the team needs to do moving forward. With a laundry list of players on the list of house cleaning, or needs to be moved on from. Who are you most disappointed in?
Yeah, I think, this first, let's say this. I think that this is going to be a big season for Chuck Fletcher. When he came in, he was gifted a wealth of talent of young, developing players, or at least, what we thought was that. There is some guys that have progressed. There is some guys that have faltered. And this time, has a couple drafts under his belt of his own, and he's got more and more of his own guys that he wants to bring into the fold.
Exactly.
He has given the time for Hextall's guys to progress, and some haven't done so. Yeah. So I think that he's going to clear house of some of those players to be able to bring in more of his own guys that are progressing. We've seen some great players, with the two that we just mentioned that are already in the AHL and on their way to the NHL with Wisdom and Forrester, and I think more are coming. But with that being said, I think, a guy like Pascal Labarge needs to be moved on from. He's a 2016 second-round pick. He simply, in my mind, has not lived up to
sayonara.
He has not lived up to his name. He was a great player for Victorville, and he was drafted and thought to be a guy like Sean Couturier, a great two-way center that was going to be a shutdown guy at times and who could put the puck in the net when need be. In my mind, he hasn't done that. And at times, he's even had to go down to the East Coast Hockey League to be revived, and he has come up and recently maybe had a game or two that he's done something, but he's had multiple years, guys. He was drafted back in the 15-16 season, I think, and simply has not done it. He's been a 4-year pro now. There's other guys that are begging for the chance to come in, and he's just still holding on to a roster spot. The Flyers are up to the brim in prospects and are going to be needing to shed themselves of some in order to bring in some others that are promising.
I agree 100%, man. With like I said, it was quite a laundry list of players: Felix Sandstrom, German Rubstov, Pascal Labarge, your favorite Alex Lyon. But these are all players that you pointed out in the article that I also agree they need to go.
Yeah.
Because they are doing exactly what you're talking about. They are taking up spots on the roster that could be put there by much better players. Okay.
For sure. Yeah. German Rubistov was a 2016 first-round pick. He hadn't had any success really when he came up to the NHL level. He looked timid. He looked scared, and not wanting to go into the boards and putting on the brakes so that the defenseman would get the puck first before going in there. And in my mind, this can't happen.
What? Huh?
Yeah. So what did the Phantoms do? They shipped him out to Russia this year, guys, back to the KHL to hopefully get him going. And he didn't have a great season out there either. I think he put in 11 points in 46 games in the KHL.
Wow.
I think it's time to move on from this guy. This guy is not Scott Lawton. He's not taking a little bit longer to progress than others.
No.
He's descending in his progression, and it's not looking too good. As you mentioned, Alex Lyon's another one, guys. He's been up with the Flyers, yes, this season, but it hasn't looked much better either. And yes, the Flyers defense is not doing him any justice, but previous years when we needed him the most, during that season
Yeah.
where both Elliott and Carter Hart got injured, he came up and was uh, absolutely horrendous numbers of 5 goals against, and we had to go elsewhere and sign some free agents and trade for other guys when we thought this guy would be able to step in and fill in for a couple games, and he didn't. He wasn't.
No, the fact that he's still on the roster actually still blows my mind. To be honest with you, if you must know the truth. Look, I'm all for giving guys chances and stuff like that, but the fact that you kept this guy around and then slept on Ivan,
Yeah.
I don't, I can't justify that. I just can't.
No. Yeah, I mean, Lyon has had his chance, guys. I mean, he's been here 4 or 5 years now, and he looked great coming out of Yale, but he hasn't progressed. And the AHL is a place to develop your prospects, or at least it should be. And this is holding a roster spot from somebody that could be signed. We have Samuel Ersson, and like you said, Ivan Fedorov that could be signed and brought over here to see what they have. They're playing in their pro levels at the highest level of play in their own countries, in Sweden and Russia alike,
Yeah.
and excelling in that sense. And can't come over because there's simply no space. Felix Sandstrom, he's come on in a game or two as of late, but he's 24. This guy was thought to be the one goaltender prospect besides Carter Hart to rival and fight for that spot in the NHL level against Carter Hart. And I mean, he's played 500 level hockey last season in the ECHL. He's had to have guys like Zane McTeer and McAdam come in, who are career AHLers, to take over the majority of the games when Ustimenko went down. This should have been when Sandstrom stepped up and shined, and he has faltered.
Just didn't, yeah.
He didn't. And in that mind, I think, Felix the Cat here should be, on his 9th life and should be out so that, somebody else can come in and have a chance. I don't think he is the guy that we once thought he was.
That's going to be the thing, and most of some of these guys you're talking about are guys from the Hextall era.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just going to have to be the reality of it. Now, let me just throw a little wrench in the questions here. How do we go about doing this house cleaning? What, do we just outright release these guys? Just waive them? I mean, how does that go? I mean,
a lot of these guys are restricted free agents at the end of this season, and they're in the final year of their contract. So Flyers can simply choose not to re-sign them.
Okay.
And let them go if need be. And if somebody wants to trade us a late round pick or something for their rights, then so be it. Good riddance in my mind. I hate to be like that, but it's slowing the progression of other players that are in need of spots.
Yeah. I could think of a couple of players that are on the actual big club that could use this kind of
treatment,
house cleaning treatment. Yeah. I'd like to call to make a dinner reservation.
Yeah, I think there is plenty of guys that will have that same treatment in the NHL level. I think there's plenty of players, prospects in the system that are progressing, and some possible free agents that we discussed last week in some articles that could be brought in to better suit this team.
I agree.
It's enough of guys that are just okay or mediocre in their play, and we want to progress. And we're not going to progress if we keep hiring back the same people because, hey, they did okay.
Come
Okay,
on.
that's
Yeah, I'm
that's
with you.
nice. They did
Yeah.
they did okay, but we need guys that are continuing to progress at this level, especially in the AHL. We don't need a bunch of guys that are going to be career guys like Leon is turning out to be.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm also of the ilk too, where I would like to see the guys that are not progressing, the guys that are not doing moving forward to be passed on, because it's holding up the space for other players. I feel the same thing about the big club as well. I think there's at least three spots I believe on the big club that probably need to be replaced. Okay, if not more. Okay, if not more. I would not have a problem with seeing a house cleaning just top to bottom this roster up and down. Okay, because that's exactly what you're explaining in the article, where the Flyers are packed to the gills with prospects, and some of them need to go away because there's some of them that are pretty darn tootin' good. Okay, and Ivan is one of them, and a couple of the other ones that we're going to talk about here in a minute are really good and should deserve a shot, but can't because, I mean, even we've lost how many in the last 2 years now? We've lost what, two or three players, pretty decent prospect players that have gone on and signed with other teams because there's no room here on the Flyers.
And some of those guys have made it to the NHL already.
And there's my point. Now, you do point out some guys that, well, okay, so now if we release these guys or, whatever the case is, we don't re-sign them or whatever, who are some of the ones that you think we should?
Sure. I think Ronnie Attard is one of them. He's the Flyers 2019 third round pick, a
Yeah,
Chuck
yeah.
Fletcher guy, uh, defenseman. Yeah, he's 6'3", 207 pounds. Um, Played for Western Michigan,
Yeah.
where Wade Allison played up for, and
Hey.
he like Allison is ready in my mind. He's a strong player. He's just what the Flyers need on the back end. Obviously, I don't think he'll be there right out the gate, but he could progress to the AHL. And here's the best thing about it: the Flyers and the Phantoms have a lot of guys
Mm-hmm.
in the system for defense, but they don't have too many right hand shots. And Ronnie is that.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
Ronnie is that.
Oh.
And another
Oh,
thing,
sorry. I was having a moment there. Sorry.
right? Another thing that Ronnie does well is he doesn't back up. He doesn't retreat.
Oh, come
He
on.
stands them up at the
Oh,
blue
come on.
line and lays people on their butts. He doesn't give them the chance to sit and advance into the zone.
Why are you
And
teasing
that's
me like that, man?
listen, this is what this kid does. And he's a Chuck Fletcher guy, and he is one of them that I think needs to be brought in fairly soon to be able to still progress.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I like the fact that you do also mention this is somebody that I feel as well that should be brought into is the player Jay O'Brien,
Hmm.
our other 2018 first round pick. I mean, you don't hear anything about him because of everything else, but oh my gosh, man! You point out a lot of very, very, very key statistics about our wonderful player here, Mr. O'Brien.
Sure. I think he's underrated and forgotten
Yeah,
about it by most Flyer fans,
yeah,
and he shouldn't be. Uh, he had a rough route starting out after being drafted. He went to Thayer Academy, great school, but didn't really set him up the best to jump into collegiate level. Um, so he went to Providence originally. He was recruited there at the age of 15, near his hometown, and he simply had a horrible season for them. The Friars, he went there. He got injured. He had a concussion.
yeah, yeah.
Then he came back and got injured again in the final game of the season, and it just was a rough road. He wasn't happy there. and he just wanted out. So he left, and he couldn't just go right to another school. But he didn't want to lose a year of eligibility and not play anywhere either. So he went to the British Columbia Hockey League, a lesser league for sure, but he regained his confidence playing for the uh, pretension V's there, and
Oh man, I'm glad you
and
said that
you
one.
know, yeah, I don't really like saying that, but he's was at a scoring rate there last season of 1.43 points per game,
Wow.
and even better in the playoffs, scoring at or 2 point per game average in the
Wow.
playoffs for
Okay.
them. So he regained his confidence for sure. He was healthy for that season. And this season, he opened back up and played with a team that Joel Farabee played for, you
Hmm.
know, in Boston, back in Boston. And, and the collegiate level again, he played well for the Terriers this season. He like Farabee, took this offseason to put on a little weight, a little muscle, and it showed. He was ready, and he
He's
played
ready
well.
now.
He's ready for a contract now,
Yeah.
and he is from the Hextall era. He's one of these last guys that has progressed his way up. Is a little bit of a late bloomer, but that's fine. I think that's what Hextall knew he was when drafting him.
Yeah.
But he is a special player, and I think he could progress, and he could move up fairly quickly, like Forrester now is if just given a little time at the AHL level. And in my mind, he could maybe take over a Nolan Patrick's role because a lot of people are bringing out that bust label for Patrick at this point. And yes, he had all those concussion issues or uh, injury problems last season, but he's had that majority of his junior career also. So he's healthy this season, but I mean, what last checked, he only had 4 goals or something like that. Is he even brought back next season? I don't know. I don't know at this point. I think he will be, but at what cost?
Really?
Um, yeah,
You really think he's going to be back?
I think he will be because
I
most
don't think
people
so.
don't want to move on from a first round pick this quickly and go see him succeed somewhere else. But do I think he may benefit from going down and playing with the Phantoms once again? I think so.
Okay. All right. So there's a dilemma as well because what do you do with this number one draft pick? It's been how many years now? And we've had to wait and wait and wait. We've only seen flashes. He started off the year really well this year, but then just completely like disappeared.
Yeah.
Seriously. And quite honestly, I can't believe he's still in the lineup, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
I
He had a
can't.
prove it deal this year, and I don't think he did.
Listen,
Okay.
when you got Jackson Cates coming in, just getting signed out of the collegiate level, and it pushes him out of the fourth center role and moves Nolan Patrick over to the wing,
Yeah.
an off-suited position. I think if anything, if Jackson Cates was brought in, he should play whatever position was left available to fill. But instead, he got the rights to play center over a number 2 overall draft pick. So, that's pretty scary, guys, in my mind that, the team that thinks of that little of them to be able to just slide them on over. And it's kind of, bringing up some questions for the future with the Flyers in my mind. So,
Well, I'll tell you what. I, I couldn't agree with you more. There's a lot of players on the team that seem like repeats or of similar game style size. You know what I mean? And I think look, when you boil it all down, the Flyers need to do some serious house cleaning. You know what I mean? And to clear up some space for some of the more talented prospects coming up, such as players that we've already spoken about, Cam York and Forster and Wisdom and, Zumala now getting a
hmm
shot, you know what I mean, and
yeah,
stuff like
I
that.
thought
And
Zumala played
played
well.
well. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. And Wade Allison has just been a breath of fresh air
Yes.
to come into the lineup as well too. So more and more players continue to crack the lineup with the Flyers and look good. You know what I mean? And don't look out of place. Don't look out of place.
No, and that's what I think. The Flyers have been filling the roster up in the past with a bunch of these type guys that one of which they shipped out, and into to the Capitals. But we'll leave that alone. But keep bringing guys back and bringing guys back and bringing guys back year in and year out and year in and year out. And Raffle was great, but during his time. But do you hold on to a guy that is only going to be a fourth line player for the past 5 or 6 years, and you know hold up, your progression of a roster spot to be able to be filled by a younger guy? I
No,
don't think
I was
so.
just gonna say, not when you have a younger guy who's gonna be more productive and way cheaper.
Yeah, do I think that the Flyers need to bring in and next season have all 18, 19, 20-year-old kids on the team? No, I don't. There's a need for veteran players in that, but you need a good mix of both. And I think the Flyers are starting to do that, and Chuck Fletcher is forcing AV's hand this season at this tail end, and wanting to see what some of these prospects have,
Yeah.
so that he knows what he has for next season moving forward.
I'm gonna tell you what I think this off season is gonna be make it or break it. Okay, because if Chuck Fletcher doesn't do well with how he has to handle the situation moving forward, the flat cap, the house cleaning that desperately needs to be done sooner rather than later. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I really think that this is going to be if if they don't get it right, it's going to affect the Flyers for the next 5 to 7 years in a potentially negative way if they don't get this right. Because you're looking at potentially Carter Hart on the line, and you're looking at potentially a new core coming into this team that's going to propel you into the future. And if you skip and mess up this step, then I think it's going to hurt the Flyers for the next 5 to 7 years. And Chuck better get it right, especially in the draft. You know what I'm saying? And he better take care of this business right here that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think Chuck has drafted some good draft picks, and I think he's drafted some bad ones in my mind, and some players that he just probably should have gotten. Others. I think Cam York looks great, but Cole Caulfield was there. I think Bobby Brink. We have a lot of Bobby Brinks on the team already, and I don't know if we needed to drafted another guy
Yeah.
with that kind of size. Maybe I would have been okay with taking a Connor McLennan like he did in the
Yeah.
later rounds, who was diminutive size but shows a lot of promise. I don't know if I would have took Bobby Brink that high. So there's definitely some good things that Chuck has done to this point, and it's some questionable things as well. So we'll see. I think, like you said, this is a huge offseason for Chuck, whether he's going to be hanging around much after next season. Um,
Yeah, you think he's on the hot seat this off season?
I think he is, and I think he would be more so if the Flyers' great owner of the past was still here. I don't
I
think he would have had this much
agree.
of a long leash.
I
But I think
agree.
with Comcast Spectacor owning the team and not really having a
Hmm.
personal interest like the great Ed Snyder did,
I agree.
I think that he has a
Trigger
longer
would have been.
leash.
Yeah, I agree. Trigger would have been pulled a long time ago,
Yep.
for sure.
So with that being said, I think that there's some other guys with this to wrap it up and tie in with the other article. I think some other prospects could be brought in, possibly from the CHL level, if and sign a pro contract if the AHL and if the agreement is broken. I think you could see Elliot the Destroyer come in from Halifax. I do think you could see a guy like Connor McLennan come in
Yeah,
from the WHL, the Winnipeg Ice,
you should.
and sign and give it a chance to excel at the AHL level. But that's only if they're obviously not ready to make a jump to the NHL level, so they might not sign him just yet if they don't have a way of playing in the AHL.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you,
So
man.
that those contracts are going to be determined of that. And with Chuck's game plan, I think I did a couple articles of the goaltending perspective.
Yep.
I did one of the defense of a way of some players in that mind that he could bring in. But I'm working on one of a couple that he players overall that he could poach from a particular team that is going to be hurting this offseason.
Ooh,
So
we like coming attractions.
yeah, so that is to be my up and coming piece that
Ooh,
I'm
there
I'm
you go.
toying on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he could definitely poach a couple different players from one team in particular that is going to be hurting
Yeah, I'm with you.
as far as the salary cap goes.
Okay.
So that's something to look forward to.
You got it, man. That's awesome sauce. Well, I'll tell you what, Lance. I think we have another good one here in the can, and I really think that these great articles and continue to blow us out of the water with all the stuff that you write, man. So thank you very much for that. Really appreciate all that. You can check us out on the web at www.steelflyers.com. Stay tuned for some more great guests, great articles, and of course, talking all things Flyers with the great Lance Green as your host.
Yeah, sure. And guys, you can always follow me at LNGBASS. The number's 39 on Twitter. Catch all of my stuff also on flyersnittygritty.com and or Bleacher Report, where this show is picked up as well. I'm kind of in an off-season mode already, guys. I got to tell you, I like what the Flyers are doing with bringing up Allison and
Yeah, man.
Zumala
Yeah,
and
yeah.
bringing
I
up
agree.
Cates now into the fold and possibly some others. Maybe Cameron York if he's able to get healthy for a game or two.
That
Who
would be
knows? But
nice.
I think it is nice to see these kids play
Yep.
and I'm just in off-season mode already, guys. I'm disappointed with the season like everybody else, and I'm looking to move on. I'm looking to see what we can do this off-season. What's going to happen in the draft? What's going to happen in free agency? So that's what to look forward to in my mindset. My mindset is in GM off-season mode right now.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that Hockey Writers Inc. is in off-season GM mode because we're in GM mode, full season mode all the time. So our articles are still going to be coming out and shows are still going to be coming out as well because there's all things Flyers to talk about all the time. So I'll be looking forward to some great guests and all kinds of great things and seeing me and Lance talking about all things Flyers. Just remember, folks, have a great time and we'll catch you all on the next edition of the Hockey Writers Inc.
Thanks, guys.